Again, I'm going to open up the engine compartment, which on these cars, it's at the rear. You know, all these 550 Spyders, the 356, they have them at the rear. Porsche, it's notorious for having them at the rear. It's just the way they want to design the vehicle. And I believe it's to keep the weight at the rear tires where you're taking off. Now, over time, the 911 became one of the most respected and balanced cars, but before, in the 80s, I believe they were called almost like the Widowmakers. So let me pop the, let me turn this around before I do that so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to pop the rear hood of this thing. And on this particular car, the latch release is in the center, just between the seats, which I like. I think that's actually pretty good. One of the things that I don't like is I have to pull on this strap every time. And you get the clamshell up. There's a little release here that sometimes it does fall off while I'm driving. It'll fall into the engine compartment here, but no harm. You can see the batteries at the very back. And some of these cars, they don't have them at the back. They have them over here where you see that oil filter, which is interesting to me because, you know, I would rather have it back there. Now, some people say, well, what about the weight distribution? I'm not racing. You know, this car, I'm not racing. I'm enjoying it. I'm driving it because I feel like a sophisticated old man. Go back around again. So let's get back to the engine. See that transmission? Now, that transmission was sent to me by a friend of mine up in Sacramento. The old one that came with the car, and this is what I'm talking about, was a basket case. Fourth gear popped right off. Just you put it in fourth, you accelerated, out it went. This was, I believe, rebuilt by Rancho out in somewhere down south, LA, Anaheim area. I'm probably getting that wrong. So that is a brand new rebuilt, well, it's a rebuilt, not a brand new, but it's a complete rebuild transmission. It runs perfect. I can back up, put in reverse. I've gone very fast on the highway, faster than you want to go in these cars, because these cars were not meant for really racing. I know that we talk about its history, its heritage, 1955, 56, and what it was all about. And was it a fast car for its time? Yes. It was referred to as the giant killer. So let's go back over here to the other side so you can see a little bit better what I'm trying to show you. You see that big, that long black rod underneath the boot here? Well, right there, that's connected to the rear of the transmission, where the linkage and the shift, where you shift gears. Now, that goes all the way from the very rear to 2/3 of the car itself. Well, maybe less than 2/3. So the shifter, I'm going to remove, this is, if you look down in here, you see that piece of metal down there, that piece of pipe, that's part of it. And it goes all the way to the back. That's your shifter. Now, some of these come with cable, which it's good. I hear it's good. I just always have this feeling that cable's going to bunch up, you know. So the cable is designed like they design bicycle brakes, and you know it's inside of a shield, and it, you know, when you push on it, it goes forward. When you pull on it, it goes back. And how they design it, they put it on the very back, and they put like a little XY axis. So in an XY configuration, when we're talking about what we're talking about in reference to geometry, you can almost get an infinite amount of direction. You can, in other words, you can put that thing almost anywhere you want, and it's designed that way specifically. Now going back over here to, this is the CNC. It's a hydraulic clutch. It's assisted. You know, some of these are not, but this one happens to have a CNC, which, you know, if you are looking for one of these cars, be aware CNC is out of business. And from what I understand, no one's taken up their, you know, their business. They chose to just close their doors and basically not tell anybody, not sell the business. And there you go. Now we move a little bit forward to the engine. From what I understand, this is a 1.9 liter. Let me see if I can get a better view here sideways, and I apologize if that turns into something that I'm not anticipating on the YouTube, but you can see that it's a dual carb, right? We've got dual carburetors. These are Webers. I used to have Solex. And if you're familiar with Solex, you will want to be unfamiliar with Solex. I've had Solex carburetors on 2 other cars and no longer have Solex. I can't do it. They are not cars. They're not for me. Now these Webers, I went ahead and I had the German Performance, not German, German Auto out of San Luis Obispo order them for me. And I wanted to make sure these things were from South America. It's my understanding they're the ones that are better. Maybe I'm getting that wrong, but it's my understanding that they're better carburetors. They're built better. And these are 44s, I believe. And you know, it took a while for them to get them installed and get them rolling, and they're beautiful. They work amazing. The other day I drove it after replacing the fuel pump, because the fuel pump that I had that came with it was just this little chintzy Chinese thing, and I don't understand. Whoever had this car just did not like it or something, or just didn't know what they were holding. So I went ahead and I put in a nice Edelbrock low pressure, high volume, which is what these need. You need to have that. And that sits at the front. That sits right underneath this front right side of the tire. You literally have to raise this car, take that tire off, and rotate the hubs right or left, depending on where you want to get into the car. So all in all, so far, except for the cramped space, it's been simple to work on. And it's a very simple car, because you can't forget that this is a Volkswagen engine. It's just a Volkswagen. Now, some of these cars come with Subaru engines. You know, some of these Subaru engines that are turbocharged, they're pulling 300 horses out of those. I cannot imagine. Look how skinny these tires are, guys. Right? These are skinny. That's okay. They look good on this car, but if you try to put down 300 horsepower on those 2 tires, yeah, you're going to just be stuck in one spot, and it's dangerous. The brakes on these things, you know, this has rear drums, front disc, and it's enough because the car weighs 1,500, 1,300 pounds, maybe 1,400 pounds. So it's a very light car. I'll say that again, 1,300 to 1,500 pounds. Can you believe that? And this engine, I believe, puts out 110, 118 horses. That's more than enough. It will get you going. I just replaced the fuel filter in there. I asked them to put in electronic ignition. I still haven't checked to see if they've done it. But this is just a basic engine from a Volkswagen. What year? I don't know. I don't know enough about Volkswagen to tell you, but if I find out, I will. A friend of mine told me it's a Type 1. It's air-cooled Type 1. And I'm just going to go with whatever they're saying. Now we go over here to the car. Now, remember I was telling you about the CNC. See, these are floor-mounted accelerator, clutch, brake. You got the handbrake here. Now, something I had to do, and it's a temporary solution, because when it came to me, it did not have seat belts, and it had no way to put any kind of restraint on there. You know, I thought about going through the rear firewall and, you know, connecting it to that crossbar there, but that's part of the torsion system, and there's a bar that resides in there, like that acts as the spring, and you can't mess with that. You're not supposed to. Can you? In theory, yes. I just don't want to, and I just didn't want to put a hole in the firewall, so I kind of got a little bit creative as best I could. I tell you, I like elegant solutions, and I made a quick stainless steel crossbar, and I was able to get the Crow seat belts to fasten onto, you know, slip onto there and fasten on, and that's great, and that works. I always forget to do this because when you drop the clamshell, it doesn't close. All right, so getting back to where we're at. One of the things I want to do, the mods that I want to do to it, is I want to get rid of these mirrors. They call them the swan neck mirrors, I believe, and they're more for a 356 than they are for a 550. And also this windshield, it's for a 356. It's not a 550. They sell these plexiglass, and I have to be really careful what I want to put on it. It's not even about, honestly, it's not even about cost. It really is about the look of it. Do I want to get something on there that's just I'm gonna regret because it'll look funny? So I'm doing a lot of research, and I'm trying to find out what I want. I personally have to, I feel like I have to get rid of this windshield because it is heavy. And if you look at how it's fastened onto this car, and I believe all of them are like that, it's really not that strong. There's a hole here, and at the other end of this hole, there's the wall, and there's the hole. There's a nut that goes on the end, and that tensions and holds this on. And this little bar right here for the mirror, I had to learn this the hard way. That's used also to keep the windshield down. So it's designed to hold it down. And every now and then I have to come in and with my nails because of my OCD. You see how here it's started to go inside the channel? I hate that. So I find myself grabbing something really flat and just pulling it back out again. And that's going to keep happening because of this windshield. And I even put shims in it to give it a little bit more of an angle towards the front, and that didn't help. I mean, it helped slightly, I shouldn't say that. So what's coming next is the windshield. And now something else that I did, and this, I'm sure I'm going to get some flack for it, but don't knock it till you try it. I will actually show you guys a video of it at night. You see these LEDs that are coming off? I'm not going to go to an angle. See these LEDs that are coming off the rear brake / turn signals? At night, when I put on the brakes, that lights up like a exclamation point. Now that was on purpose. I want you to understand this car is black, and it is small, and it is low. And those lights are tiny. The average person on the road has not seen one of these cars. And I can just imagine someone accidentally coming up on it and not paying attention. And you saw what the deer did to the front of this thing. Now imagine a Cadillac SUV careening from behind. Because the car is light, it'll probably push more than anything if it doesn't climb on top of me. But if it were to climb on top of me, I'm toast. There is no roof. There's no roll bars. And that's just the way these cars were designed. These are sports cars, and pure sports cars. Now, I'm going to put the clamshell down because I want to show you one more thing. And this has to do with just the looks of it. Listen to that. Look at that. It shuts nicely now. Before, that thing wouldn't shut. It just would bounce everywhere. But I want to go back again to the rear. It just looks like it's running, doesn't it? I mean, it looks like it's got really strong rear legs. Like it's like, oh God, like a cheetah or something. It's got that look to it. I just love it. I can't say enough about it. Now, as time goes on, I will do a little bit more blogging about the secrets of it, because I want to share. Let me turn this. Now, why do I want to do this? Sorry, to fix myself because my OCD, guys. It was so hard to gather any information from this car. And the reason they do that is because the few companies that actually are involved with this car, that design them, that build them, that repair them, they covet that information. And what they don't want to get out is how simple these cars really are to work on. I now know that I could find most of my information online, or I can take it to a Volkswagen mechanic. And it will help. They'll help. Now, when I first took it to my Volkswagen, my mechanic, who's a German mechanic, because I own several German cars, they didn't want to touch it. And I kept telling them, it's a Volkswagen. Everything on this thing came from Volkswagen. And I happen to think it's kind of a great mix. You got German parts with American craftsmanship. And it is craftsmanship. Let's not deny that. They got the proportions right. They got the lines right. They got the way that it was designed for the stiffness of the chassis. They got it right. There are other companies out there that are reputable. You know, I think Thunder Ranch was one of them. I believe they used to buy Beck cars and then they built them for you. I don't think they're in business anymore. Then you have Fiber Steel. I think Fiber Steel, I think they're trying to elevate the brand. They're trying, you know, the mystique of this car. I mean, last I saw, some of their cars were $120,000, $130,000 for a reproduction with a Volkswagen heart, and I have a hard time with that. Especially, you know, even now when I paid for this car, at the time I believe I paid $20,000. But yeah, I'm already another 15 grand into it. Is it worth it? Yeah, it is. It's not even the collectability thing. I just love the car. I love the simplicity of it. And I'm sorry I'm walking around because of, you know, too much caffeine. I'm gonna show you one more thing. You know, this is a little Mini Cooper that I've got. And it's actually a pretty cool car. Let me rotate the screen here one more. We'll just have a glancing view of this beautiful, beautiful car. Now, it's in the back right now because I'm at one of my other homes and for personal reasons. And this home doesn't really have a garage. It's a big house and lots of space, but no garage. Here again, so I'm gonna head towards over. I want to show you a little Mini Cooper because that thing, and I'll talk about that later. Right now, this is about the 550, and I'll get, you know, more into the 550 as the channel progresses. But look at this. Look at this little car. Look at that. Isn't that cute? Yeah, it's blue, which is the color I like, white top, and it is the S. Now this is the 2007, I believe. I have so many cars, sometimes I don't remember the year, so I apologize. I know it's the year after the turbo. This has an actual supercharger, no longer a turbo. Turbos had problems. This came with a supercharger, and the gentleman I bought it from, nice guy, he did up the suspension, and he did it right because he wanted to go racing with his son, and then decided it's not for me. So I bought it for really cheap. I got it for a good deal, and I'll talk about that later on. Anyways, for now, hope you enjoyed what I showed you, and I will keep bringing you as much information as I can about, you know, the Porsche 550, because I see more and more people hunting them down and buying them. They don't last very long on the market. You know, you go on Craigslist in Los Angeles, they're gone. Even the worst looking of them all, they're gone. They get bought up, and I think they're paying too much money for them.